J.R.R. Tolkien came up with several languages for his fantasy realms, incorporating multiple handmade maps and lengthy histories. He also named a tree with a beard Treebeard and a pony Bill. Bill is short for William, just like a pony is short for a horse. George R. R. Martin named his two continents basically West and East and made the map of one just a single mashup of Great Britain matched with Ireland. Meanwhile, you're trying to make a map of a fantasy world that is both realistic and fantastic. If you want a map with realistic place names, here are some ideas to make it easy. Find your favorite fantasy novels and just take a few names out of them. This will, of course, besides being obviously plagiarism, let your players know what fantasy books you really enjoy and will help set the tone for the campaign. Of course, stealing a whole map borders on fan fiction. But let's say you want to be the first DM/author/major religion to make entirely new content. Many real places have very simple names with just adjective/noun format. Consider Grand Rapids, Little Rock, the Rio Grande, or even Waterdeep. There's nothing wrong with describing a local feature and calling the local town just that. You could also name it after a famous person, and maybe the feature they discovered, such as Glens Falls, or Bainbridge Island, or Bolivia. If history has taught me one thing, it's that different cultures have occupied the same physical location over time. So places get mixed names. The Brythonic name for river was Avon, and the English name is river. So we have 9 rivers in England. In Estonia, Saaremaa Island means island, island, island. And of course there's Torpenhow Hill. So use that in your fantasy name generator. Take 2 nouns from different cultures, or a noun from one and an adjective from another. Let's say you've got an industrious village in what was once an elven forest filled with fey squirrels. You could mash those descriptors together. Use a relatively obscure word, such as in this case squirrel, and translate it into another language, and then add a descriptive noun from the other language. Elves are French, right? So let's use that word squirrel, translate into French, and add a descriptor of the town. For industry, I'm choosing mill. If one of your party members speaks French and would critique this a bit, just change to another language. But what if you want a fully different name? Say you're exploring the dwarven lands and you want fully dwarven names. You can translate descriptive names just into another language. Dwarves are Norse, right? Let's use Finnish. If that feels like cultural appropriation, you can always use a fantasy language. People have already written them. You don't need to make your own. Fantasy races are not going to cancel you if you appropriate their fantasy culture. So let's take 6 geographical features, and we're going to translate them. And at this point you say, I don't know how to say that. Okay, you're the DM and you're making the names. You get to decide how to pronounce them. So either use, and then you can either use like Xanathar's Guide, and you can actually pick famous dwarves to name the places off of, just rolling on the dwarf table here. I don't know, I guess I could name, this would be Dalgal's whatever. And you could just name the descriptor name after a town near you. So Grand Rapids sounds way cooler if you say Suuri Koski. But let's say your group expects full fantasy immersion, and they will use Google Translate to discover how you are naming things. Before you use Duolingo to learn Orc, try this last easy tip. Grab a nature guide. Look up the scientific name of some local plants and animals. Get the first syllable or 2 of one name, the genus name, and the first syllable or 2 of the species name. Mash them together and pronounce them very badly. That's not Latin. That's nonsense. Sweet fantasy nonsense. For example, a local plant called kinnikinick around here has a scientific name Arctostaphylos uva ursi. The mashup, you can take the arcto and the ursi and uva and you just mash them together to make arctuva. It sounds pretty metal. Fun fact, arcto, staphylos, uva, ursi. Names are silly.